Entrenched Division, a difficult warbond so far to nail down just how good things can be because there's a lot of factors involved. It's more complex than one might imagine. I'll be going over just how things perform and how good they are on all the factions and rank them from best to worst for both the warbond and superstore items, the gameplay ones that actually alter how you play the game. We'll begin with the Cremator. It's the strongest flamethrower in Helldivers 2, as it should be considering you have a backpack for it. You've got increased range, increased damage, and 500 fuel. You also have the two new effects of slow and frenzy attack when hosing things down directly with the fire beam. You can slow down devastators and berserkers so they can't attack you and they just simply perish. Both of these effects work for all flamethrowers, but the Cremator having extra range makes it a bit more lucrative, and that range, by the way, is kind of insane. You kill a harvester from a safe distance so it can't shock you, and you delete the horn so it can't shield itself, and if you're aiming for the blue circle on his face, that is a spot you can go for and kill it in roughly a second and a half. On the new Jondaliers, the Illuminate mechs that are piloted from the crotch, you destroy the Ramatra block in one with the arms. They get close, you just go for the pilot or the arms, and it's dead very fast. The Blaster fella, bit less lucrative time to kill, but still not too shabby. It's just tougher because they backpedal and you're using a flamethrower that requires moderately close range. For Warstriders, from a safe distance, aim for the joint. This is what I'm going for here. It's dead faster than I've ever seen before with any flamethrower. Hulks can get sent a one-way ticket to see Satan when going for the hip joint. Although it's very inconsistent, I instead recommend attacking a leg and breaking it. They get staggered, they can't attack you for a little bit, and then destroy the other leg. Meat Bobs get flame broiled in 2 seconds, roughly. Behemoth Chargers. If you hit them in the torso, they seem to die the fastest. This one's charging next to me. I aim at the torso for a half second. It freaking vanishes out of the realm of existence. And in the other case, I'm trying to hit this charger towards the torso from the front, which I do, and that seems a bit quicker than going for the head. Impalers don't seem to have any cool new weak spots for Cremators, so just attack the legs or the smooth spot. When tentacles are down, you have the orange that meets the purple. Hit that area, and you're chilling. Bile Titan. If it already spewed, I go for the face from a safe distance because of the extra range. If you're beneath it for some reason, I would recommend going for the Wagon. Factory Striders, which had their undercarriage buffed to be more resistant to fire damage because certain people, like me, were killing with CRISPR pretty fast. Which, by the way, you can still kill them in like a half second with CRISPR. It's just weird and inconsistent, which is the going trend with flamethrowers. So it's going to be killing them in roughly the same time frame as other flame weapons, maybe a little bit faster. Tanks. Even though you have heavy penetration for your flames, if you're close enough, you bypass it somehow and you can melt them from the side. So just do that and you're chilling. With all the rough estimates for time to kills out the way, Cremator is freaking awesome against Chaff Clear, against most factions. For bots, you can make it work, although that faction is the worst matchup for flamethrowers in general, including Cremator. On bugs, it works wonders, dude. I had a blast playing against that faction for the first time in a long time. Did a full solo clear first try, no deaths, which is rare for me. Squids, if you're on the Mindless Masses modifier, you don't have Stingrays, at least right now, and you also don't have Flying Overseers, which is great for the flamethrower. So even there, you can do wicked stuff. The Cremator is S tier, which might be a little generous, but considering that most folks thought it would be trash, considering the previous backpack support weapons, this one's pretty good. Bastion Tank Destroyer. Oh wait, that was the last Warbond drop. But it is important for today's sponsor, War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game in existence, with well over 2,500 tanks, warships, jets, planes, and helicopters. You get to be the driver of some of the most powerful war machines throughout history, and War Thunder captures a bunch of these small vehicle details and sound design you need to make it feel more immersive when playing. My favorite aspect is the weak spot system. Giving players dynamic ways to disable and destroy vehicles is massive for player progression as a whole. You also have the X-ray system that shows where shots landed in destroying vehicles, and also if they destroyed you yourself. This provides instant feedback for that very same progression. Join a growing community of 95 million players by downloading War Thunder for free on PC, PS5, Xbox, and even mobile. If you'd be so kind, use my links in the description to do so. For new and returning players that haven't played in the past 6 months on PC and console, there's a massive bonus pack containing 100,000 silver, 7 days of premium account play, and all the other rewards seen on screen. Anywho, on with the video. Stoker, a one-handed SMG dealing 130 damage with a crisper scotch taped underneath as your underbarrel attachment. It deals decent enough damage for SMGs. In fact, it's only 10 or 15 below a reprimand, which is two-handed for some reason still, and that weapon's medium pin. This one, light penetration. You can one-tap Devastators, you can handle a bunch of chaff units if you wish, because you also have 45 round capacity that goes to 60 rounds if you get the drum magazine. Your reticle goes from iron sights all the way to a 2x or even 4x, and I'm a pretty big fan of that. Although, you're still fighting the drag that affects all SMGs and pistols, and the sway after sprinting, which aren't a fault of the weapon itself, but the one thing I have noticed is spread seems a bit more egregious than it should, at least for first shot accuracy. I'll go for the legs on voteless, and my bullets just miss. Reticle is in the middle of their leg, and it misses more often than I will with pretty much any other SMG. The Scotch Tape Crisper as your underbarrel works the exact same way as a basic secondary crisper. If you're beneath a Factor Strider, aim up, and it should take you usually 1 1/3 of a tank to kill it. If you're lucky, just 1 tank is fine. And you get 3 fuel reloads for the underbarrel attachment. Stoker SMG is B tier, but keep in mind I'm ignoring the extra sway and drag for SMGs and pistols. I do hope the devs give us the ability to unlock underbarrel attachments for different guns going forward, because I would love a grenade launcher or a flamethrower on my Diligence. That would be freaking peak. Will it happen? Probably not in that respect, but hopefully for other weapons, like other assault rifles and maybe other SMGs. Sweeper. Imagine the M98 shotgun from the legendary Halo Warbond that has worse stagger, but virtually everything else is simply better. Slamfire shotgun, meaning it has a fast fire rate, with armor-piercing flechetes, giving it medium armor penetration, dealing 504 damage, 7 shell capacity, 70 shells for spare ammunition, rounds reload, and you have weapon customization. You can put chokes on it, you can even put a 2x scope, which no other shotgun can have, and a 4x scope, which seems a little overkill, but I love extra customization. Its stagger, like I said earlier, is worse than M98, but it still does decent on Hive Guards, Warriors, and all the other smaller bugs. It don't stagger Overseers that good, and it can't stagger Devastators. 2-shotting Alpha Commanders, even from Narnia. In that case, it could be a 3-shot, but still, that's with no upgrades. It is putting in work against those freaking critters that run away from every fight imaginable. Love them so much. You 2-shot Hive Guards, even after the recent buff to those fellers. Previous, not the recent patch. And that makes it very versatile for the different seeds you can be facing. For Stalkers, you don't have the stagger, but the DPS, you can put them down quick, fast, and in a hurry. I'd say overall, it is B tier, because it's not great against the bots, not great against the Illuminate from where I'm sitting right now with a unupgraded shoddy, but against the bugs, baseline, it's putting in that work. Veto, a pistol with some ridiculous knockback power. You can stagger Alpha Commanders, Stalkers, Berserkers, Devastators. Basically, every single medium chaff unit and below will get knocked back from a single shot, which is hilarious because the trench shotgun can't even stagger Devastators. But this weapon is medium armor pen, deals 105 damage, which means you cannot one-shot Devastators from any range, unfortunately. You've got 12 round capacity, but not in a magazine. Instead, you have stripper clips, and you reload 6 rounds at a time, but only if you're missing at least 6 rounds. So if you're missing all your ammunition, in this case 12 bullets, it takes 2 reloads to get topped off. It's kind of the same way or same reload as an autocannon. That's the gun. The iron sights are atrocious, but it does look very cool to shoot and reload it. Big fan of the animations. I think it's C tier though. Moving on. Shovel. Medium pin, 165 damage, 1.0 swing speed, and most importantly, you can dig holes, which realistically is pretty niche in most cases, but there is a mission I think is really cool on, which is evacuate high-value assets. Dig a hole, and then use a hell pod to dig it even deeper. Ideally your mortars, because in most cases they'll be low enough to where enemies can't attack them anymore. Also works for your sentries. Flame Sentry in this case was so dug out that enemies couldn't even attack it from distance. Harvesters that can normally one-tap it with their beam had to get close and shock it instead. And in that time frame, they're getting mowed down by the flames of democracy. And the mortars were just doing their thing, also in the dugout. Honestly, pretty cool stuff, and it fits really well on this specific mission because you're just in one spot defending for about 15 or so minutes. So in that regard, it's awesome. But in most other cases, there's not a whole lot you can do with it unless you want to LARP it up. getting a roleplay aspect, which is great for most folks. I'm not too keen on it. I will say you can remove snow, allowing your fellers behind you to walk faster. You can dig up foliation and things that slow you down, like bushes and whatnot, and possibly barbed wire. But there is the issue of not being able to dig around many things. Let's say for fabricators, you can't get next to those for the most part because they have like a concrete base that prevents you from digging any deeper than, let's say, half an inch. And that's an automaton objective, so sure, it makes sense. But that also applies to random open areas all across the map. You're essentially hoping the game lets you play with a shovel, but in most cases, you aren't allowed to. Folks want to dig in the deep end, but they often find themselves with their toes in a puddle somewhere. If you could dig deeper, brother, that would be very cool. Wouldn't be super useful in most cases, but it'd be very cool. But oftentimes, you're better off finding a hill somewhere and then digging below that. It does seem as though if you're digging into the ground, you can often ignore enemy surveillance, so to speak. They won't notice you because you're behind cover, in a sense. I'd say the shovel is D tier. Gas mortar sentries, firing gas mortars that have a larger explosive gas cloud than a regular gas grenade, at least from what it seems. These will apply the caustic effect, making enemies go crazy and attack random stuff, which sometimes they're very accurate and aware, and they attack you. They also take damage over time. This damage is fantastic for smaller enemies of the chaff variety, voteless especially, hunters, wilburs, pouncers, and it affects and can confuse basically everything below war striders, tanks, factory striders, bile titans, leviathans obviously, and I believe harvesters. Pretty much everything else will get confused, which is awesome. You're doing damage and applying crowd control. That's kind of nuts. It does seem to have the ability to almost hit itself, and it will be much more consistent in doing so when you dig a hole and put it in said hole. So that can be ideal for keeping things off of it, but do recognize that sentries take gas damage. And I assume that also applies to the gas sentry. So be careful of that. But overall, it does have better tracking or predictive targeting than every other sentry, or every other mortar sentry rather. So you can actually hit things where they're going to be as opposed to where they were, which means you'll get way more value. And it also tries its best to attack things that aren't already gassed, similar to the Gas Dog Rover. It's freaking awesome. I'm saying A tier for now because I'm not really a mortar enthusiast, but I might change my mind and play with this more. I've been against it for a while because the base mortar, the frag one that kills everyone, dog. That is a war crime. This will take some getting used to. So it's A tier, probably S tier. Just know it's a very good stratagem. Giga Grenade. 3 impacts duct taped together give an anti-tank armor pin, 2,000 damage, and the same explosive radius as dynamite. See a small gathering of Alpha Commanders having a huddle-cuddle session, they can get exploded. You can destroy and blow up Bile Titan Nest and Illuminate Walls, which is cool. And you only get to carry 2 maximum unless you're wearing armor to carry 2 more. And every resupply from either drop pods or backpacks, regardless of your armor equipped, gives you 1 extra Giga Grenade, which is kind of rough. It is essentially going to be a worse version of Thermite in many cases, because even though they say they do the same damage, they don't. Thermites have a fire dot that you will not have with the Impact Giga Grenade. So Thermites can one-tap Charger Behemoths, they can blow up Illuminate dropships with Shield on consistently. Giga Grenade can't do that. It can one-tap War Striders pretty much anywhere, which is a massive plus, but you can't take out tanks from the front, which is kind of weird considering how it's a massive freaking throwable that doesn't have the same throwing range as most other grenades. So it's going to be cattywampus to land in the first place. Folks are comparing it to Ultimatum. I don't know how. Ultimatum also one-shots tanks. It can one-shot Bile Titans. It can go twice as far if you use the reload swapped or the swap tech for it. You have different guns out, swap to Ultimatum as you're firing it, it goes further, albeit a bit more spreads involved. And you can even break a Factory Strider's backside or side panel in 1 hit. How is that even remotely comparable to the Giga Grenade, which is just worse? Here lives that? That's actually garbage. I think I can't say that word. I think Giga Grenade is D tier. There's 3 new-ish armor passives, 2 in the Warbond and 1 in the Superstore, which we'll review first. We've got Bulwark, heavy armor with a concussive padding reinforced passive, provides 50% resistance to explosive damage and a higher armor rating the tune of 180 armor as opposed to the average 150 for heavy armor. The only thing tankier than that in terms of armor rating is the Fortified Commando, giving you 200. But explosive resist with extra armor is a ridiculous combination. You'll be so much tankier for the bots, which I already like using explosive resist for, so you can survive rocket striders, rockets, which is ridiculous, and various other explosives will be doing far less damage. For a decent test, go walk over a landmine and see how much HP you have remaining. I think it's S tier. It's freaking awesome. It does beg the question of when we're getting transmog, because the more they make these kinds of armors that don't even have new passives and they're just old passives put on different armor to make it even better than usual, why can't I just pick it? Sapper with concussive padding Grenader passive, not to be confused with the previous title, very distinct names. You have increased explosive resistance by 50% and increased throwable capacity by 2, which is honestly pretty solid armor. It's medium though, so keep that in mind. The Sapper medium armor is S tier. Explosive resist is great for squids and bots, and extra throwables is fantastic for every faction. Commandant, is that even a word? Provides 50% resistance to explosive damage, I'm seeing the trend. Provides 25% resistance to gas damage and effects. That is pretty much useless. Just saying it, rat meow. It has to be upwards of 50% to even see a noticeable effect. 25%, it's like, it's a drop in the bucket. Sidearm recoil reduced by 30%. Also pretty much useless. This, I believe, is D tier, if not F tier. I wish it just didn't have explosive resist and instead it went a different route. Because tankiness, if that's your goal, you wear a heavier class of armor. That concludes all the playable content, and these are the final rankings for the Entrenched Division Warbond, which honestly kind of shocked me. I did not expect to enjoy Cremator anywhere near as much as I did, and that's the main thing that kind of blew me away. Also, the armors were pretty solid. Normally we get these it's sort of like half hybrids, where you get a portion of a good passive, so it dilutes the overall power. In this case, we just got 2 great passives on 2 different armor sets. Kind of awesome. I will say the Giga Grenade and the pistol, kind of a letdown, but what can you do? You can't really expect everything to be bangers. It's just not how it works. And here are the cosmetics. I don't particularly go wild on those in these videos. I normally just show it, maybe say I like these things, which by the way, I do enjoy the medium and heavy helmets. Those go with a bunch of different stuff I like wearing, and it will potentially get some folks off my back because they seem to not like my dripology. They don't respect the purple cape, red armor, and blue helmet. They're just naive. They haven't really been around long enough to recognize real. Anyway, that's all for me, folks, and a big thank you again to today's sponsor, War Thunder. You can fly, drive, shoot, and blow up war machines. Be sure to check it out on PC, PS5, Xbox, and mobile, per maybe using my links in description and pinned comment. And for those who haven't played in the past 6 months or are new on PC and console, don't forget to claim your limited time bonus of 100,000 silver, 7 days of premium account play, and all the other benefits seen on screen. Again, massive thank you to War Thunder, and a big thank you to y'all for watching the video. Have a good day. Peace.